seemed like unless we got in on the ground floor, we were going to miss the opportunity. It's not necessarily a favor to your kids to leave huge sums, but I'm doing it at the foundation has more of a unique ability to take pieces, take science, take economics, take system change delivery, and put those pieces together.
But the truth is, had you graduated and stayed, would it have made a difference? In other words, would the world be different because you couldn't have started your company by graduating, having not dropped out or not?
No, it turns out that the urgency we felt that if we hadn't started in 1979, if we'd waited and started in 1980 or even 1981, because of the way we thought about the problem, because we, were so software oriented and thought it, and most companies weren't focused on software. People did software sort of a side deal because they had to, but the hardware was what you paid all the money for. The software just came free. So the idea of software companies wasn't around all that much. So we, in fact, although we felt like we had to do it that day, an extra year would have been okay. Yeah, it wouldn't have changed the course of history to hang out another year.
Okay, so when you started your company, you were the chief software engineer, in effect, architect, and you were also the CEO. When you started it, to be realistic about it, did you actually ever think it could take off to the extent it did, or what did you think the realistic goal was?
Well, I had what you might call an inconsistent view, which worked out very well. One view was that there'll be a computer on every desk and in every home running our software. And so that would be, billions of copies of our software, and that we should do everything for that. But then when it came to spending money, renting things, I had a view that, okay, maybe we could triple in size, and I ought to do enough in terms of how I structured things to triple in size. So that was kind of there was my vision, which was grand, my management view, which was to triple, and then there was my, okay, do we have enough cash if nobody pays us? So I always like to have, because we had a few customers go bankrupt, because being in the personal computer hardware business was pretty chaotic. I always wanted to have enough cash to pay everybody for a year. And still to this day, Microsoft has enough cash to pay everybody for a year.
More than a year, I think.
Yeah, more than a year.
I've got so much money, I've got to do something with it. Was it your father who came to you and said, Bill, you got to do something with this money and maybe create a foundation? What created your first foundation? What was the impetus behind it?
Yeah, so I get married in January 1994. My mom passes away that year. And then my dad is sort of saying to me, hey, you're getting all these requests. Why don't you just send them to me, and I'll sort of sort through them and show them to you, and you can decide if you want to fund some of them. So he's looking at any general requests that came in. Then a really capable Microsoft executive, Patty Stonecipher, decided to retire, and I wanted to put computers in libraries all over the world. And so she created an entity that was doing that. And so we went from like 94 to 97, where we had those two different things, and it was a total of maybe 150 million a year being given away. Then, because they had complementary skills, we put it together into one foundation for Patty to be the CEO of in 1997. So it built up from my dad sort of saying it, and I told my dad, look, this money is still increasing in value, and I'm pretty busy. But he said, no, I'll make it easy for you. And it was nice, because then I got down the learning curve a little bit.
So you're obviously a very smart, very driven person, very focused. Did you ever think it would be difficult to find a spouse that would be able to keep up with you?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, not keep up, but I think everybody worries about whether there's some match for that.
So how did you happen to meet your wife? Was she was working she graduated?
Well, there's an element of luck.
She graduated from Duke, and she went to work for Microsoft, as I understand it. And then how did you happen to actually meet her? And was that complicated, dating somebody who is working in your own company?
Yeah, I mean, she didn't work very directly for me, and at first we weren't serious at all. I mean, I was serious about work and she was serious about work, and then it kind of surprised both of us. They're like, wow, I actually might like to spend a lot of time with this person. So it kind of snuck up on us, I'd say, in a good way.
Okay, so now your foundation is now the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and you decided, I think at the age of 50, more or less, to retire from Microsoft and to devote the rest of your life, more or less, to philanthropic things. So why did you decide to do it at, let's say, 50? And was it difficult to withdraw from running a company you had built and to really devote the rest of your life to something different than what you have been doing for 20 or 30 years?
Well, certainly in my 20s, Microsoft was everything. For us, the theory is that we picked some causes: education, global health, and we can actually see childhood death in our lifetime getting to be pretty small. And so we have this very specialized organization. We have malaria experts, we have vaccine manufacturing experts. We are an institution. It's not just the amount of money we give, we are about global health. We have people who think, have done 20,000 hours of videotaping of good teachers, mediocre teachers, looked at what that is, thought about teacher training. So it's a purpose-built organization. And we think that whatever our ideas are about change, in our lifetime plus 20, they'll either work or not work. And then it's up to rich people who are alive, who are looking at the current problems and politics and technology and understanding of learning, to decide, to give their money, as opposed to picking, some weird board who God knows what they would do.
All right.
And there will be plenty of money, but that's just our choice, not to perpetuate some name, because these missions they're not, they will be solved by someone, hopefully us, but by somebody within the next 40 or 50 years.
Okay, so today you have a large number of people working at the foundation. It's 800 people or something like that. So it's a bit of a bureaucracy. 800 people is a lot. So if you decide you want to do something, do they do what you want, or do they kind of come back to you and argue and you have a hard time getting things done through your own foundation, or that's not a problem?
Well, we get them to argue with each other. If you only have one person who works for you, that could be very difficult. Now, seriously, it's like Microsoft was with about 1,000 people, where the understanding of the analytics, the bias towards action, the understanding the different mixes of skill sets that are required. It's pretty exciting to go in. I spent this morning discussing our pneumonia strategy, because there's some partners here in Boston who are part of that strategy. It's really fun to go through the discussion about which paths we ought to take. So it's, sure, there's debate, but you have a lot of knowledge. Many of the problems we work on, it's amazing how little has been put into them, like malaria or pneumonia or diarrhea or designing new toilets. It's amazing how little has been done.
What would you say is the most exciting thing you have done with your money in terms of giving it away? Is there some achievement that you're really particularly proud of? I know it's ongoing, but is there one or two things you would cite and one or two things you would say is a regret that you wish you hadn't done with your money?
Oh, what we're doing to eradicate polio, which, if we're lucky, by 2018 it will become the second disease after smallpox to be completely eradicated. That is really exciting. And it's down to 3 countries: Nigeria, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and it's complicated. I'll meet on Monday with the president of Nigeria, the president of Pakistan. We're still very hopeful. That is pretty exciting, because we've had to bring satellite mapping, using cell phones, better vaccines, and reaching out to religious leaders. A lot of different things come together. I'd say in terms of what's measurably been done, the work on childhood death and childhood sickness, that's what we're most proud of, and that's largely been done through vaccines. It would be great if our education stuff worked, but that we won't know for probably a decade. If polio succeeds, then we'll take on malaria and measles in the same way, try to go in our lifetime for the eradication of those.
So what would you like to see as ultimately your business legacy and your philanthropic legacy? Obviously you've got a long way to go, but if today you were to say, this is what I accomplished in business I'm most proud of, and this is what I've accomplished to date in philanthropy, what would you say they are?
Well, business is hard because Microsoft was a significant part of the creation of the software industry, the personal computer, which led to the internet. And there were many other companies, some of them, yes, Steve Jobs there did important work, but there's like a lot of other people too. He and I were the most prominent, but history always kind of oversimplifies. There were people who did things that completely failed, but were very suggestive of the right answer to things. So the competitive dynamics leads to these, some of these markets, winner take all, type results. Where today you're seeing Google, Facebook, and certain elements benefit from those dynamics. So I can't really characterize, personal computing, internet software happened a little bit better, a little bit faster, but you can't really pull out one individual's thing. Even if you took a company, if you said,